Hi, welcome to the channel. This is Vic Fonzo, and today's video is going to be about Gabriel and the Guardians. Anime is very popular nowadays. This is kind of hard to imagine because I'm a 90s kid, and I grew up watching Toonami with titles such as Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, and Gundam. Back then, anime wasn't as popular, but you can find another kid that share that same passion. For me, that was more so in elementary school. By late middle school and high school, it wasn't as popular, and you were considered kind of like a square. When you think about anime, it's been around before the 90s. You can go all the way back to the 1960s. But fast forward to today, it's wildly popular, which brings me to this video. Now, I saw an ad on Instagram with crowdfunding from Angel Funding, the same platform used by The Chosen or Sounds of Freedom, which are both highly successful. This series will borrow a lot of influence from ancient Hebrew scriptures. So there's a Judeo-Christian background for this series. So they're looking at Lord of the Rings and Chronicles of Narnia, literature giants such as C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, who have a Christian faith background, and how they use that cleverly to inspire their stories. They're using that as a blueprint. They're thinking, how do we approach anime, but with this sort of influence that we have from our faith, to where we can inspire and share a good story, a story that other people can grow and learn from. Moody, who happens to be the art director, mentions Dragon Ball and Trigun as an inspiration for this series. Now, we all know Dragon Ball, even non-fans know Dragon Ball. But the mention of Trigun is very interesting to me, because Trigun is another series that does have a lot of strong Christian themes. When it comes to the West, there has been a decline in Christianity, and I'm not dating 10 years ago. I'm dating back to Renaissance, cathedral, architecture. A lot of that was inspired by Christianity. So I don't know when the shift happened. That'll be a topic for another video, but we sort of veered away from being inspired by God and started embracing all sorts of nonsense in our modern day culture. But looking back at it, you can point to music, art, and architecture. People just wanted to be inspired by God and use that influence to just create amazing things. There are many faith-based cartoons out there, and they're trying to get a message out, which I'm all for a message. I'm all for the sharing the gospel, especially for those who need to hear it. I want to talk more about the artistic side of it, because sometimes it's kind of like the quality looks very low budget and it can be a little campy. Sometimes it comes off as a sermon wrapped with a film around it. You should play into the medium, play into the cinematography. Look at The Chosen and why it's so successful. It's good quality, but not only that, it's made by people who are filmmakers. Looking at other series that are doing well, what comes to mind, I think about VeggieTales, Wing Feather Saga, Prince of Egypt, and this comes to another point. How do you navigate this field? Let's say you're a Christian, you want to enjoy anime. Well, I'm thinking you have to approach it like many other fields, right? Music, films, games, and comics. Does it hinder your faith with Christ? You have to think about this stuff. That's something you have to do your due diligence with. There's some anime that looks like it's for a younger audience, but it is not. That's why you have to pay attention to the age suggestion. Now, as far as artists, I did try to go to ArtStation and see maybe there's some more concept artists. I would like to know more about the team. Like, who are the people that you bring on board? I'm excited about that, because you do have the higher up leaders and visionaries. The creative director, Jason Moody, is an artist. He does graphic design and animation, etc. So this is a passion project of his. This is an all-star team of voice actors. You have Johnny Youngbosch, Christina V, Matt Lanter, and James Arnold Taylor. Now, I'm familiar with Johnny Youngbosch. This man is practically in everything. He's also the voice of Zero from Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Christina V, there's a lot of content she's been involved with. I'm more familiar with her voice of Killua in Hunter x Hunter. Matt Lanter is the voice of Anakin Skywalker, part of the Clone Wars. He's been pretty consistent with that character, to the point he's even in Battlefront 2. And then we have James Arnold Taylor, who voiced Titus from Final Fantasy and Ratchet in the Ratchet and Clank games. So this is a solid lineup of voice actors. If you're a fan of Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, there's a noticeable dip in their films as far as storytelling. Also, 2D animation has essentially been abandoned from 3D animation. I enjoy 3D animation, but there is this charm with 2D traditional animation. I'm seeing many series that I enjoyed during my childhood just becoming worse. And some people say woke ideology. I'm starting to see that more and more. That makes me more pessimistic when I see some new series coming out and it's established on some old IP. And I think to myself, is this going to be good or just another disaster? This mainly comes from projects that comes from the West. I rarely see that with Japanese content, anime in particular. When it comes here in the West, almost like they don't respect the lore or the history of some of these stories. Sometimes they do these weird self-inserts. They place itself in the stories or they bring their worldview into it, which is fine to be inspired by your worldview, but they do it in a way that's not consistent to the world that they establish. And it just feels like you're going with trends of the modern age. It pulls you out of the immersion you get from the story. And it's not exclusive to films, it's games, comics. But I'll say there's a pro and a con to that. The con is that things that you grew up on is kind of terrible now. But the pro is that now people are going to create things on their own. So what they're doing now is pitching, trying to gain interest. And as far as interest, it's hovering around 6,000 people, which doesn't seem like a lot. But if you were to break that down by how much they're willing to pledge, you're looking at about $3 million right now. So it seems like it's on a path to success. You won't see it probably till 2025, but this is a good thing. A lot of people like anime, and I know there's other Christians out there who enjoy anime, but they don't want to see all the violence and gore, fan service that deals with a lot of the sexual themes and whatnot. They want something super positive that they can watch with their family, their friends, and they don't have to be too concerned about that. They just hope that is successful and actually good. Like people who they may not be a Christian and stuff, but they can watch it and be like, hey, that's something I grew up on. And again, I'm thinking back to something like Prince of Egypt. There's people who worked on the project. Not everybody was a Christian. And there's a lot of people who are not Christians who enjoyed Prince of Egypt. And I'd even go back as far as another game, El Shaddai. El Shaddai is a game that borrowed from the apocryphal book of Enoch, but they still use that as an influence, and they created an interesting game. You can create anything in this world as long as you're passionate, you have the ability, the talent to create it. You have something that can like resonate with people. And I would love for that for this series. Be something that it could be a staple, something that it can create nostalgia for the next generation in a positive way, you know, seeing people cosplay for it. That'd be great. Or it can just, again, it can be a dud. I hope not. I'll be following this project and I hope it does well. I see this as a win for everyone. And thank you for tuning in, and let me know your thoughts. If you're interested in Christian content and you want to know my perspective on things going on in the world, then subscribe and follow the channel. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.